Adrian crouched behind the console, muttering to himself about faulty sensors and his uncanny luck with technology, which today seemed to have turned against him in a symphony of blinking lights and buzzing circuits. He was in the kind of apartment that smelled faintly of burnt coffee and mechanical grease, with wires hanging like unruly vines from the walls. He had been tinkering with a small graviton modulator, convinced it could stabilize the low-orbit satellites that occasionally winked out above the colony. But now, he was distracted by the unmistakable feeling of being watched. It had started subtly, shadows flitting just beyond the window, an occasional metallic glint of movement across the alley below, and noises that didn't quite belong to the hum of the city. Adrian leaned over the console, squinting at the grainy images on his improvised security monitors, and muttered, "Great, a voyeur. Perfect. Just what I needed." He rolled his eyes, imagining some cosmic paparazzo scribbling notes about his late-night snack habits. He adjusted the sensors, creating a labyrinth of infrared beams that zigzagged across the room, and waited. Hours passed. Nothing. Then a small shadow moved through the beams, causing a quiet alarm to beep and the lights to flash. Adrian jumped and shouted, "Ah, there you are, come out, cosmic creep." He yanked a metal rod from the shelf, waving it like a very ineffectual sword. There was a pause, and then a figure stepped into the pale glow of the monitors. Lyra. She looked like a human girl at first glance, delicate and lithe, her skin catching the low light in subtle shades of pink and gold, her hair floating faintly as if it had weightless strands that defied gravity. But her ears betrayed her. Long, elegant, and slightly curved at the tips, twitching as if every sound in the building reached her with precision. Her eyes, sharp, luminous, and alien, studied him carefully. She froze, clearly startled, and Adrian had to suppress a laugh at how utterly cliché she looked in a caught-in-the-act pose. She started, her voice melodic but accented with a rhythm he couldn't place. Adrian waved the rod, then lowered it reluctantly. No, don't start, just, why are you creeping around my place like a space stalker?" She tilted her head, ears flicking, and a small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. She stepped closer, hands raised in surrender, and muttered words Adrian barely caught. "Observing, not harm necessary." Adrian blinked. Observing, like Big Brother but shiny and with pointy ears. He gestured toward the array of monitors. She tilted her head again, and her long ears twitched in a way that suggested she found his joke amusing, or at least tolerable. "Look," Adrian continued, setting the rod aside, "I don't usually talk to intruders unless they bring snacks, so if you have snacks, now's the time to mention it." He was half serious. The tension in the room seemed to wobble, almost comically, like a ship drifting in zero-G. Lyra's lips quirked, and she produced a small, glowing orb from her sleeve. It hovered briefly before dissolving into a faint scent of something sweet and metallic. Adrian sniffed and coughed. "Okay, no snacks, but points for style." She gestured at the console, indicating the monitors and the maze of wires. "Purpose, protect." Her words were clipped, each syllable deliberate. Adrian tilted his head. "Protect, from what, and why me?" Lyra's eyes darted to the window. "Threat, energy rogue, large, consume, world." She made a motion with her hands, a fluid, alien gesture that almost made him trip over the sheer seriousness of it. Adrian raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you're saying, what now? Like a planet-eating blob from space. And I'm involved because I know how to fix circuits." He rubbed his temples, part incredulous, part fascinated. Her ears twitched rapidly. "Yes, needed human skill." Adrian blinked and leaned back. "Well, that's reassuring. So basically I'm the galactic handyman, got it. I can do that, totally." Lyra's expression softened, and for a moment, her alien nature and human-like grace collided in a subtle smile that almost made Adrian forget his skepticism. Then she crouched beside the console, pointing to one of the glowing holographic displays. It flickered to life, projecting constellations of light and energy readings, patterns that seemed alive. "Detect shift, must stabilize, you help." Adrian squinted at the intricate map, feeling both awe and a creeping sense of absurdity. "All right," he said finally, grinning despite himself. "If I'm going to save the universe tonight, we might as well make it interesting. But fair warning, I have a habit of blowing up things I'm trying to fix, so if we explode, it's not personal." He jabbed at the console dramatically, and one of the lights flickered, causing a faint puff of smoke. Lyra flinched slightly but didn't scold him. Instead, her ears twitched like a radar, scanning the air for anything he couldn't hear. The two of them worked late into the night, Adrian narrating every minor success and spectacular failure in his sarcastic commentary, Lyra occasionally rolling her eyes or flicking her ears in response. They found themselves caught between bursts of genuine progress and chaotic misadventures. A quantum conduit that bent a chair into an unrecognizable shape, a small graviton pulse that made Adrian float briefly before he crashed into a wall, and Lyra's attempts to translate technical jargon into her language, resulting in several comedic misunderstandings. By the time the first rays of the colony's twin suns seeped through the blinds, Adrian sat amidst a forest of cables, blinking lights, and faintly smoking devices, feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. Lyra hovered beside him, long ears catching the morning light, her expression somewhere between amusement and pride. Adrian laughed quietly, leaning back against the console. "You know," he said, "if this alien apocalypse thing doesn't pan out, we might have a future in accidental furniture miniaturization. You'd be great at that." Lyra tilted her head, and her laugh, soft, musical, filled the small apartment. The night's tension had loosened into something fragile but promising, the beginning of an alliance neither of them had expected, and a universe waiting to test them in ways they hadn't imagined. Adrian woke to a soft hum vibrating through the apartment, the kind of hum that made you question whether it was your imagination or the building slowly plotting revenge. His hair stuck up in every direction, a chaotic halo, as he rubbed his eyes and muttered something about graviton-induced insomnia. Lyra floated near the window, her long ears quivering like finely tuned antennas, scanning the city streets below as though every passerby was a potential threat. "You're up early," Adrian said, trying to suppress a yawn that nearly toppled him from his chair. "Or maybe that's just your alien metabolism. Do you ever sleep, or is the concept of naps a human thing?" Lyra's eyes flicked toward him. "Sleep, minimal. Focus, important. Threat approaching." Her accent had a rhythm that made her words feel like a strange, half-melodic drumbeat, and Adrian found himself unconsciously mimicking it, saying, "Threat approaching sounds ominous, yes indeed." He flopped back onto the couch with a dramatic groan. "I'm ready for doom, mostly caffeinated." "Caffeine unnecessary." Lyra tilted her head, ears twitching, and her expression softened, almost amused. "Energy stable. Must detect shift." She gestured toward the console, where yesterday's holographic map hovered, now displaying intricate waves of shifting light and color, a living pattern of the rogue energy entity that had already earned the nickname Glower in Adrian's mind. Adrian leaned forward, squinting at the map. "Glower? Really? That's what we're calling the universe-eating menace. I mean, it sounds like a grumpy space cat, not something capable of turning a planet into jelly." He jabbed a finger at the holographic projection, making a streak of light ripple through the display. Lyra's ears twitched sharply. "Name, human preference," she said, though a hint of exasperation crept into her tone. "Entity, large. Consume, inevitable if unrestrained." Adrian drummed his fingers on the console, pretending to think deeply. "Right, got it. Big, hungry, does RSVP, destroys property. Sounds like a normal Wednesday." Lyra tilted her head, and for a moment the human in Adrian realized she had an almost imperceptible grin on her face. They began working together to stabilize the energy shifts, Adrian clumsily integrating human tech into Lyra's alien instruments. Each experiment produced bizarre results. Once a conduit they had built caused Adrian's coffee cup to levitate and spill in slow motion, and once Lyra's attempt to adjust a graviton field nearly flattened the couch into a pancake. Adrian laughed at each mishap, announcing, "See, proof that genius often comes with mild destruction. It's a feature, not a bug." Lyra rolled her eyes but helped him reset the instruments, her long fingers surprisingly delicate for manipulating alien tech. Hours passed. They communicated in a strange hybrid of Earth words, alien gestures, and improvised signals, learning each other's quirks. Adrian discovered that Lyra's ears could detect minute energy fluctuations, even those he couldn't perceive, and she discovered that his sarcasm, though irritating, often kept her calm when experiments went awry. At one point, Adrian made a joke about giving Glower a little space treat by sending it a holographic cat, and Lyra actually twitched her ears in a way Adrian interpreted as a chuckle. As the day stretched into evening, Lyra revealed more of her purpose. Glower, not mindless, predictable partially, past destroyed colony others. Adrian's stomach dropped. "Others?" he asked, a joke dying halfway out of his throat. "You mean, you're trying to stop it from having a repeat performance?" "Yes, survival necessary, human skill critical." She floated closer, tilting her head. "Trust must learn." Adrian leaned back against the console, staring at her with a mixture of awe and skepticism. "Trust, learn. That's a nice way to put, I've been spying on you all night." He grinned despite himself. Lyra's ears flicked, and she made a small, almost imperceptible sigh, her expression softening. Observation, not betrayal, only protection. They returned to the instruments, the work blending tension and absurdity in equal measure. Adrian's hand accidentally activated a quantum stabilizer, and for a few glorious seconds, both of them floated above the floor, thrashing wildly. Lyra's ears twitched frantically, and Adrian screamed, "Gravity! Why is gravity so rude today?" They crashed back down with a loud thump, and Lyra muttered something that sounded suspiciously like human reckless. Adrian grinned. "Hey, reckless saves worlds sometimes." As night fell, they paused, staring at the holographic map that pulsed with the presence of Glower, now moving subtly closer to the colony. Adrian stretched, rubbing his sore shoulders. "Well, partner, I have to admit, this is shaping up to be the weirdest night of my life. And I've lived next to a vending machine that literally eats coins, so that's saying something." Lyra tilted her head, ears quivering, and a faint smile touched her lips. She pointed at a section of the map, highlighting a subtle but promising fluctuation in Glower's energy patterns. "Stabilize, progress. Human contribution effective," she said softly. Adrian laughed, standing up and giving a dramatic bow. Thank you. I'll be here all night, floating chairs and inventing new swear words for cosmic disasters." For the first time, the tension in the room felt less like imminent doom and more like a shared adventure. Adrian glanced at Lyra, her long ears catching the ambient glow of the city lights, and felt a strange sort of respect grow between them. She might be alien, terrifying, and capable of wiping out entire worlds if they failed, but she was also oddly human in her small ways, in the way she twitched her ears when amused, in the way she tried to mimic his sarcasm, and in the way she trusted him despite his clumsy attempts at heroism. They continued through the night, a symphony of laughter, mishaps, and incremental triumphs, blending human stubbornness with alien precision. Somewhere in the delicate dance of floating chairs, misfiring conduits, and eccentric jokes, they became an alliance. Not friends, not yet, but a pairing forged in absurdity and necessity, a tiny bulwark against a universe that seemed eager to test them. And as the first pale light of dawn crept across the city, Adrian leaned back, grinning at the floating holographic map, and muttered, "All right, Lyra, let's see if we can save the world before breakfast." No promises about the furniture, though. Adrian woke to a trembling floor, the kind of tremor that made even his most stubborn circuits feel uneasy. The hum of energy through the apartment had intensified into a low roar, like the sound of a million engines revving at once. Lyra hovered beside him, her long ears quivering sharply, eyes glowing with an intensity that reflected the magnitude of the threat outside. Adrian rubbed his eyes, muttering, "Okay, so maybe Glower wasn't exaggerating about the whole planetary devouring thing. Good morning to me." Lyra's hand flicked toward the console, and the holographic map sprang to life, jagged pulses of energy radiating outward like ripples in a cosmic pond. "Approach fast. Must act now," she said, her voice a mixture of urgency and clipped rhythm. Adrian swallowed, trying to keep the sarcastic humor alive even as the city below began to shudder. "Right, well, we could start by asking it politely to stay on its own side of the universe, but I'm guessing that's a no-go." Lyra's ears twitched, almost as if she detected the joke, but she didn't comment. They worked in synchrony, a partnership forged in chaos. Adrian adjusted human circuits, recalibrating stabilizers with a precision he hadn't known he possessed, while Lyra manipulated alien graviton arrays and energy conduits with her long, agile fingers. Each pulse of Glower's energy threatened to destabilize the city's infrastructure, sending debris and sparks flying. Adrian narrowly avoided a falling panel, waving a hand at Lyra. "Careful. I prefer my furniture unflattened, thanks." Lyra's lips quirked, a faint smile betraying her amusement despite the tension. She tilted her head, long ears twitching, and whispered, "Human, reckless, useful." Adrian grinned through sweat and grime. "Reckless, yes, useful occasionally." "I'll take it." The two of them reached the epicenter of the energy surge, a swirling vortex of light and unstable matter. It pulsed like a living heartbeat, expanding and contracting unpredictably. Adrian's hands flew over the controls, recalibrating harmonic modulators, while Lyra's fingers traced arcs of glowing energy in the air, stabilizing the graviton currents with a precision that made Adrian dizzy to watch. "I swear," he muttered, "if we survive this, I am never complaining about Monday mornings again." A sudden pulse threw them both backward, sending Adrian tumbling across the floor and Lyra floating in a controlled arc. Adrian laughed despite himself. "Yep, Tuesday mornings are officially worse, but I guess we're too busy saving the world to care." Lyra's eyes glowed brighter and she spoke quickly, "Aligned now. Synchronize human trust." Adrian blinked. "Trust, right, I've been doing that all week, mostly under duress." With a deep breath, Adrian activated the final sequence. The alien device hummed in resonance with his human modifications, a harmonic synergy that neither of them fully understood but both had faith in. Glower pulsed violently, the entire city trembling, then gradually the energy waves began to stabilize, ripples smoothing into coherent patterns. Lyra's hands moved in precise motions, guiding the final streams of power into containment fields. Adrian watched the vortex shrink, a grin breaking across his soot-smudged face. "Looks like we might just survive. Who knew accidental heroics were my forte?" Finally, with a spectacular pulse of synchronized energy, the entity contracted, compressed, and then in a flash of radiant light was gone, contained in a stabilized energy pocket, neutralized for now. Adrian collapsed onto the floor, exhausted, laughing and panting. "Well, that was fun. Anyone want to suggest a less world-ending hobby for next week?" Lyra floated down, her long ears brushing against his shoulder, and for the first time, Adrian felt a quiet understanding pass between them. "Human skill admirable, trust justified," she said softly. Adrian blinked at her, realizing the enormity of her words. He had begun the journey suspicious, reluctant, unsure of his worth in a universe so much bigger than himself. Now he understood that his ingenuity, humor, and willingness to act, even imperfectly, had mattered. He had grown from a solitary tinkerer into a collaborator, a partner in survival, and in a small but significant way, a bridge between species. They surveyed the city below, the streets intact though marked by debris and glowing residual energy. Adrian rubbed his hands together, looking at Lyra with a grin that mixed relief and disbelief. So we just saved the colony, possibly the planet, and maybe the galaxy. And no one even noticed me being heroic because I'm not the type to announce it. Typical human humility, right? Lyra's ears twitched in a gesture Adrian had learned meant amusement. She floated closer, pointing to one of the remaining holographic displays. Next, challenge possible, but now rest. Adrian laughed, leaning back and letting himself sink into the moment. Rest, sure, but only if you promise not to drift off into some zero-gravity meditation thing and leave me alone with the cleanup. Lyra's smile widened faintly. Agreed. As the twin suns rose higher, casting a soft glow across the city, Adrian realized how much he had changed. Fear had given way to curiosity, suspicion to trust, and isolation to partnership. He glanced at Lyra, whose long ears shimmered in the morning light, and felt a bond that went beyond words, species, or even the threat they had faced. In the chaos of cosmic danger, they had found humor, resilience, and an unexpected friendship. With a final glance at the now stable holographic map, Adrian muttered, "Well, partner, we survived. The universe didn't explode, and I didn't destroy any furniture this time. I'd call that a win." Lyra tilted her head